Hello and welcome. This is Pepin from Pepin Reacts, and today we have another recap of a show that we watched called Breaking Bad. Now, what happened? Well, hard drive, encryption, blah, blah, lost the first 5 reactions, so we're doing a recap on our thoughts to give you ideas. We've seen up to Season 3, Episode 1, so, we're ahead, so we're going to try not to spoil you. I've seen the show before, kind of not really up to Season 2, Episode 6, but, Meader's seen the whole thing. No spoilers. Feel free to walk ahead. Whatever, I don't care. Anyway, let's get into this. All right, so this episode opens up with Walt finishing having some rough sex with Skylar. Very nice. And he gets up to wash himself on the bathroom. You're messing me up, Meader. And he looks at himself in the mirror. So what does he see? He sees himself. Or does he? And 12 hours before that, a penniless Walt and a black-eyed Jesse hire a truck driver to pull up the RV out of the ditch. Afterwards, the duo agreed to end the criminal partnership as soon as they deal with the bodies of Emilio and Crazy 8. Yeah, because they essentially have a bit of mess to clean up, and now they're like, how do we get rid of these bodies? Otherwise, they might get traced back to them and then to be culpable. So it's kind of interesting. Walt tries to make some money, and now he's having to dispose of bodies. So Walt gets the engine finally at this RV, which is decrepit, to turn over, and a sound alerts them to the fact that the dead man isn't dead. Oh, yeah, that's right, because they're started coughing or something. So they thought Emilio and Crazy 8 were dead, but really, they weren't.
Well,
so
one of them wasn't.
Well, wait, Emilio wasn't? Was it Crazy 8?
Crazy 8 was still alive. Emilio's dead.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, one of them still lived. So that definitely gives a different, a bad moral dilemma there. What do you do? Do you put him in the hospital? If you put him in the hospital, then he's going to rat you out. You're dead, right? You're going to be going to jail. There's no way out of that besides, getting rid of him. At least if you're trying not to go to jail. If you're trying to, save yourself, that's the only way out, I think. What do you think, Meader?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of options. I think bringing them to the hospital, you don't, if you're in that business, you don't rat. So there's reason to believe that they wouldn't rat, but there's still that risk. And how risk adverse is Walt in this situation is the question.
And I'll say that with the scene where Walt finishing the rough sex, Skylar was a bit surprised by getting initiated with that sex. And she kind of liked it, right? She's like, "Ooh, I kind of like this Walt." And he kind of looked at himself in the mirror. I'm trying to remember this scene exactly. I have a faint image of it. But I think it's one of those stereotypical things of you look in the mirror and you don't quite recognize yourself because he kind of changed a lot from that moment from the day prior. Mm-hmm. So yeah. It makes a lot of sense to me. So then we go into Act 1. The morning that followed, Walt wakes up to a naked bathroom on his floor. What does that mean? I don't know. So Walt's breakfast with his family is interrupted when Jesse calls his house, posing as a telemarketer. Oh, that's right. Jesse's like, "Hey, yo, I got some stuff to sell to you." And, Walt's like, "Shit." So then Walt eventually finds some privacy, and Jesse's like, "Hey, yo, help me out. Get a Crazy 8's body and Emilio's body. We need to get rid of them." And Walt's just like, "Hey, I got work, can't do this." Walt still has a lot of monetary concerns, because I don't think they've sold any meth at this point either. I think that's the least of their problems. So eventually Walt leaves school, and Skylar attempts to trace the call from Jesse's profane voice message. And it gives her the idea that maybe Walt wasn't talking to a telemarketer. Jesse and Walt are anything less but conspicuous. Especially Jesse, because what was it? He had his name was Captain Cook or something.
Yeah.
That ain't a good idea right there. I mean, that's kind of exposing yourself a little bit. So at school, Walt mishears a student asking about the murder and the midterm. That's right, because it's one of those things where it's not a Freudian slip per se, but it's a same kind of concept, but internally. Your brain just swaps words, and I've had that happen before. It's really annoying. So then after the class, he raids a chemistry supply for hydrofluoric acid. Meanwhile, Jesse hears more noises coming from the RV. When he looks out his window, he's stunned to see the vehicle door wide open, and Crazy 8 nowhere to be found. So Walt's trying to find some supplies here to like get rid of the body, and Crazy Eight's like, "Peace out, I'm out of here." And that's got to be a stressful situation, especially Crazy Eight just kind of walking through the neighborhood, like anyone could find him. Not a good situation. So driving to Jesse's house in his Pontiac Aztec. Wow, they're very specific on the car in this thing. Walt encounters an injured Crazy Eight, so Walt even came across him and stumbling down the middle of the suburban street. Walt waves towards the car, but Crazy Eight recognizes the voice and tries to escape. That's right, he's kind of hobbling around, and eventually he just knocks himself with a tree. And then Walt puts him in the car. And I think this is the first little part where we have a little bit of dark comedy. We have Crazy Eight just middle of the street like a zombie, just kind of like, he sees his attacker, or rather his vindicator. I don't know what you call him exactly. He's like, I gotta get away, and just knocks himself out.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really lucky that Walt's the one who found him, because you're right, anybody could have seen him and done something about it. But Walt's the one who happens to see him. So
at the Walt residence, Skylar comes across a website that contains Jesse and his social media profiles. And I think this is the one where it's like she sees the website, he's got like a bunch of weed and stuff and just cool stuff, and it says like, MILFs, 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 MILFs. What does he love? MILFs, 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 MILFs. And Skylar, you might be lucky enough to be part of that. Oh, you're not going to clap?
If she has a third kid, then she can be MILF, MILF, MILF.
Oh, okay. So that's what the MILFs... Okay, I thought it was just how good of a MILF you are, like a level of attraction, but really it's just the amount of kids.
Yeah, it compounds. Every time you have a kid, you add a MILF.
I see. So,
My mom... she's a MILF meh. Don't finish that sentence, Nathan.
Yeah. I knew where I was going. Like, as soon as I'm tired, that's not staying in the episode.
That's really funny.
I was just thinking about Mother. It's just like shit.
I hope that stays in the episode, because that's very good.
Okay. Let's go with somebody else's mom who's really hot. There we go. They might be a MILF if they had two kids. Anyway,
true.
Walt brings the conscious Crazy back to Jesse's house, where they take him to the basement. Ooh, we're going to the basement this early in the season too. That's pretty crazy. And they secure him to a pole with a bike lock around his neck. And it's Mike. If you haven't seen the episode for some reason or listening to our commentary, you gotta see this thing, because this is like a little bit brutal, right? It's kind of hard to watch, very uncomfortable, and it's hard to imagine how you escape with it like around your neck like that. Walt and Jesse try to argue about what to do next. The first priority is to dispose of Amelia's body and destroy the evidence. Walt suggests that they use hydrofluoric acid to break down the corpse. They also agree that they have to kill Crazy Eight. The duo toss a coin to see what they will do. Jesse wins the coin toss to dispose of Amelia's body. Thus, it is up to Walt to kill Crazy Eight. Jesse has to buy the specific plastic bin so he can properly dispose of the body. However, upon visiting the supply store, an impatient Jesse can't find one that's big enough for the body. That's right, because Walt gives him like very specific instructions to buy one that's like polyurethane or something like that. Yeah. And I believe it's because that polyurethane won't react with the hydrofluoric acid.
Right.
And Jesse's just kind of like, I can't find it. Shit. Well, I guess I'll just get this one. Or maybe even found one, but just wasn't big enough. I forget if which one it was, or if it was both.
He finds one and it's not big enough, so he doesn't buy any.
Oh, I see. So they have this argument about who's going to kill Crazy Eight, and they both agree that it has to happen, right? Because they both want to get out scot-free, which is kind of interesting, like character-wise. Like at this point, you root for them because they are trying to cover up their murder, or maybe it's not even a murder. I think it's more they're trying to cover up their inductment into the meth business, at least Walt's inductment. But I would. It's kind of hard to root for them at this point. They're talking about murdering somebody, and neither wants to do it.
Emilio, I would call self-defense, not murder. maybe manslaughter. I don't know if that falls under that same category. Crazy 8, they're talking about murdering him.
Yeah. So at Jesse's house, Walt is reluctant to kill Crazy 8. Ends up serving. Oh, yeah, that's right. So this is where Walt is just like, I don't want to kill him. And then just feels bad and gives him the sandwich because I think he said something about being hungry.
Yeah.
And also gives him some toiletries. And Crazy 8's a little bit skeptical because, like, is this poison? But, you know, he looks at Walt and is like, yeah, this is not poison. So in order to release some stress, Walt smokes some marijuana. And then Jesse comes home and is like, hey, Walt, how did the murder go? You know, they're like a married couple or something. And Walt's like, I'll just take care of him tomorrow. And then he leaves to meet Skylar at a hospital for her sonogram.
It's weird that Walt was played by Christian Bale for that one scene.
Well, he gets a lot of inspiration from movie characters, don't you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have cell phones in this movie. We know the movie's inspired by the real world, right?
It's true.
Also, we'll just call out the fact that all these phones are kick-ass.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just amazed by them. So then Walt's just like, hey, or rather, she goes, Walt's at the baby's office or whatever, and then Skylar's like, hey, Walt, what's this whole thing with Jesse? And Jesse's like, or Walt's just like, I gotta come true here. I've been smoking weed.
Yeah.
And Skylar's just like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. And slowly covers her face with her mouth. Like, very, very dramatic. So, I think, I want to put it this way, but Skylar could be described as a little bit of a Karen to some degree. I don't think she is really, but, like, she kind of has that, like, prudishness to her. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I could see her being Karen-esque for other reasons, but I don't know about for prudish reasons.
Okay. So, Walt struggles to keep his secrets in check at work while Jesse removes Emilio's body from the RV. That's right, because Jesse's job is to dispose of Emilio's body, and he's going to do it with hydrofluoric acid. So, as he's dragging the body across the driveway, Skylar appears at the front gate, and Jesse's just kind of like, oh shit. And then Skylar's like, hey Jesse, guess what, Mr. Bad Guy? My brother-in-law, or his brother-in-law, is a DEA. I don't think, did Jesse know that at that point? I think he did. No? Okay. And then he's like, Jesse, you gotta stop selling pot to my husband. And then they have a little back and forth, and like Skylar's like, I don't know, she put on like her britches that day. Like she's just like, ugh. And Jesse's just kind of like, how do I play this? He's just like very awkward, and this, you know, they kind of have a thing. And I think Skylar walked away a little bit like proud of herself. She's like, hey, I told that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. That was a very interesting scene that we dissected, like in full detail, and I wish we still had that because it was super, super fascinating.
Good tease.
Guess what, guys? You'll never see it.
Jesus.
So then he hauls the body off, and it's like, okay, gas mask time, bathtub time. So then he gets Emilio to take a bath. Mm-hmm. And eventually, Walt comes back and sees Jesse. And Jesse's like, hey, yo, Skylar, your girl, she visited me. And now Emilio's in the bathtub, just chilling out. He's not in a plastic container, though, because they weren't big enough. And then Walt's like, oh, shit. And then he kind of goes up there, and there's sizzling liquid from the ceiling, and all of a sudden, we see Emilio burst from the roof or ceiling, wherever it's called. And he's in a liquefied state. And they're like, well, this is shitty.
Yeah.
And that's how the episode ends. Oh, actually, nope, that's not how the episode ends. Apparently, they're out in the desert and at the site of the cook, and two Native American children kick a ball, and one picks up the gas mask. And I think that was, like, when we watched that, it's kind of hinting that maybe there's a trail that's being found that they're not even aware of. Like, they didn't think of the gas mask. That's just something that happened in the act.
Yep.
So they're trying to cover their tracks, but they're missing, like, their footprints or other prints. Their fingerprints,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, Meader, give me a general thought there on some of this last scene here.
I mean, so it's a lot of Jesse being obstinate. I think it's a lot of the teacher student mentality that these two have, specifically of Walt feeling like Jesse's not applying himself because he's not listening. He's not like following Walt's directions. Walt's like, I'm giving you directions for a reason, and Jesse's like, well, I found another way, and then it turns out that Jesse's way actually made a bigger mess than the resolution of doing it right the first time. Mm-hmm. So Jesse's trying to find shortcuts, and Walt's trying to explain to him why shortcuts don't work, and it just creates an even bigger mess. And both parties made bigger messes out of their situations where Walt is continuing to keep somebody hostage who he's supposed to be handling, and Jesse is literally making a mess out of what was once a very contained body is now all over his house.
That's a great point, because both are just like fucking it up, right? I think when I watched this, I was more like critical of Jesse and his mistake, because I don't know, it's a science thing, not a moral conundrum. But if you're gonna kill someone, well, actually I can't say it. I'm just gonna say you don't give them like a last meal or whatever. But they actually do that. So, but what I'm trying to say, like, you don't kind of buddy up to somebody like that, and Walt's kind of just dicking around and messing stuff up, and Jesse's doing it. I think Jesse a little bit worse though, because like having liquefied remains and no bathtub, that's not a good thing.
I mean, it's arguable that Jesse has like gotten further into actually doing his task though, because he actually did part of it.
Yep.
And Walt didn't. So I think Walt fucks up through inaction, and Jesse's fucking up through rash action, and they're like opposite ends of the spectrum in that way.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a little bit of moral there. If you're gonna dispose of a body, take your time.
Yeah, maybe they need to swap, and Crazy 8 needs to get in the bathtub.
Yeah, Crazy 8 bathtub. Emilio, feed him his last meal. It'll be great, and everything will work out.
Exactly.
So, anything left to say, Meader?
No, I think this is a big setup episode. A lot of tiny plot movements. I know we had originally talked a lot about Walt's lying ability in this episode, because he is constantly lying to Skylar, and she just keeps like doing a tiny bit of research and figuring it out. Like, he lies about the telemarketer, which was an awful lie. She calls him back and realizes it's Jesse. Then the first time that he's successful in a lie is really by not lying, by saying that he sells it, that like he's where I get my pot from. It's like mostly a lie, but there's truth in that. And that's where he's able to like find his niche of getting away with it. And Skylar still takes action, but then he's kind of like in the clear a little bit more. It explains some of what he's been doing, but it's him admitting to something minor to cover up something major. And I think that's an interesting growth or backpedal, if you will, in Walt as a person.
Yeah, they say that's a great way to lie, is you combine, like you lie by telling the truth a little bit, right? You throw a little bit of the truth in there, and then at the very least, your body doesn't betray you as much. Or maybe it's just more convincing the way you sell it, but I think it's mostly just a function of your body doesn't betray you. And sometimes you can do like red herrings, right? Like you tell a lie, but it wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the truth about what actually happened. Smoking weed would be a good example of that. He did do that. He did get it from Jesse, but it's completely separate from the whole actual issue, which is the meth.
Yeah, and I mean, nobody knows about his cancer still.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's kept that from Skylar.
Yeah.
And at this point, what is Walt doing this for? Because I think in the episode 1 we kind of, or I kind of came to the idea that he was probably doing it for his cancer. Just at wit's end and a little bit desperate. But I don't think it's explored yet in these 2 episodes.
What do you mean? What he's doing it for?
Why he's got into the meth business?
Oh no, it's pretty pretty clear why, because
Okay.
he knows he doesn't have much time and he has a baby on the way and wants to be able to provide for them when he's dead.
Right. Okay. So, I think we'll end this one right here. If you guys love this reaction, you should like their video. If you guys hate this reaction, just don't like the video, because it's something that you can do for us, to me, to everyone on the planet Earth. Comment, say, hey, yo, MILFs, and I'll know what you're talking about. She won't. It's okay. Why? She's your mom. How would she know? So you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you, because this is Pepin from Pepin Reacts.